So welcome everyone to this clinical and marketing training. Now we're going to focus on the product line of high power diode lasers, and we will be explaining in the first part all the theoretical concepts and all the physics behind all lasers. And then we're going to move to explain in detail both devices that we have in this product line, primelase and also elysion Pro. So here you can see the main devices. As I said, both are included into the high power diode lasers. We have primelase and we have elysion Pro. So we'll see that primelase is a little bit more powerful, so we can also perform more treatments with it, while elysion Pro, it's also really effective device, but only with a little bit less power. So let's start by understanding what is a laser and what does laser mean. So if you just see the word itself, laser means light amplified by stimulated emission of radiation. So what it's important here to know is that there's two types of radiation, ionizing and non-ionizing. And our lasers will be working with the non-ionizing ones, so it's perfectly healthy for our health, and it's not even damaging it. So something else that we need to consider is that laser is absorbed by chromophores. Chromophores are the part of the molecule that absorbs the light. And in our body, we will find three different ones: hemoglobin, melanin, and water. So just important to keep this in mind, because this will be, we will be talking about this later on. So there's different sources of light, and it's important to be able to distinguish them. So the white light, that is the normal light that we are always using, it contains different wavelengths, which each one corresponds to one color. That's why in the visible light, we are able to see all the colors that our eyes allow. So there's also the IPL, which means intense pulse light, which is again white light. So it contains all the wavelengths, but we are applying a filter. So we just allow to cross over the wavelengths that are interesting for us. So we will just see some specific colors, or we will be treating in a specific chromophores. The last one is the typical laser. The laser has only one wavelength. That's why it will be acting in a specific chromophore. So on this slide, we can see again the difference between laser and flashlight. So laser, it's monochromatic, which means it only emits one single wavelength. It also has high coherency, which means these wavelengths are emitted in parallel in the space. And it has low divergency, which means that since we emit the laser till it reaches the end, a wall, for example, the diameter does not change. The flashlight instead is polychromatic, which means that it's emitting many wavelengths at the same time. So we'll be acting to different chromophores at the same time. There's no coherency, which means the wavelengths are not emitted parallel. And it has high divergency, which means that the emitter just opens and gets wider as far as it goes. So this would be important to know which one is more effective and which is more precise. Wavelengths would be really important when talking about laser. So the wavelength itself, it's determined by the laser medium. If you want to go deeper into this topic, you can just search about this, but it's there's different lasers in the market. Ones are solid-state lasers, the other ones are liquid, and the other ones are gas. So they all emit different wavelengths. These wavelengths are always represented by nanometers. So every time that you see nanometers somewhere, it's referring to these wavelengths. And they can be shorter or longer, depending on how far are both picos. So what would happen? The short ones, because are more close ones to the other one, used to be more superficial, so act more superficially in the skin. Otherwise, the long wavelengths are more separated, so they could be penetrating a little bit more. We would also need to consider this when deciding which kind of lesion we are treating and if we want to be acting more superficially or more deeper. So let's talk now about the mechanism of action of our laser. It works by the photothermolysis mechanism. So if we divide the term into three, we found that photon is the absorption of the light by a determined chromophore. Yeah, this word that we have been talking so that much. And in body, there's three different chromophores: hemoglobin, which means blood, melanin, or water. Thermo means exactly the transformation of this absorbed light into heat. And lysis means destruction of the cell because of this increasement of temperature. So we'll be finding that we are removing or killing the cells because there's a transformation of light into heat because this light has been absorbed by a determinate chromophore. So as we said, the way of just like producing this hair removal treatment, it's by increasing the temperature of the hair. So which is the chromophore that will be acting on this case for doing hair removal? From the three that we already mentioned, it would be the melanin. So the hair is made by melanin. So the melanin from hair will be absorbing this light and will be transforming it into heat. So the way of really achieving the permanent hair removal is by arriving at 70, 80 Celsius degrees, not only in the hair, but also in the stem cells and in the growth cells. And we need to kill them to really make the hair not growing anymore. But as always, there are some limitations. The first one is the epidermis temperature. So we cannot reach up to 43 Celsius degrees on the skin because we could produce any side effects such as a burn. So we need to increase really high temperature inside by keeping not so that much temperature outside. So we will see that there's some feature of the device that allows us to perform this treatment without any side effects. And regarding pain, we also need to consider that the pain increases when the pulse duration increases as well. We'll talk about this later on. So regarding the skin and the layers, it's important to exactly know where we are. So from outside to inside, we can find more outside the epidermis. So it's the first layer we find. Then we go up to dermis, and then we find the subcutaneous cellular tissue or fat tissue. So our hair would be located on the dermis. The root of the hair would be on the dermis, but then it goes long out away up to the epidermis. So we will be treating, as we said, the melanin containing in the hair, but we need to consider, and it's important as well, that there's also melanin on the skin. So what would happen with people that is quite dark, that they has a lot of melanin in hair, but also in the skin. So we would need to take care of this and decide which is the wavelength we'll be using and also the parameters. What else is important to consider when talking about hair removal treatment? It's the depth of the hair follicles. So obviously will not be the same treating hair that the roots are more superficially or treating some of them that they are located really deep. Obviously, we would need more power, more fluence, but also maybe more sessions. So it's important to consider where we are treating. As well, regarding the size of hair follicles. So hair can be bigger or can be either smaller. So it's bigger, it means there's more amount of melanin. So it would be easier to remove it. Otherwise, the thin hair, residual hair, last sessions, they contain less amount of melanin, so it would be a little bit more difficult to remove it. And here there's a simple example of different kind of people that we can find. So on the first case, the question is, where is more melanin? Where there is more melanin? So the answer here is there's more melanin on hair. So it would be really easy because the melanin that will be absorbing the light, it's located on the hair. So we will obtain perfect and really effective results. What happens on the second case? Where is the melanin located? So there's no melanin on the hair, but also no melanin on the skin. So in this case, there's no danger. We can perform treatments with no problem, but we need to consider that the efficacy will be more problematic. And regarding the third sample, again, the question is, where is the melanin located? It is more melanin on the skin than on the hair. So what could happen here? The melanin who will be absorbing the light, it's located on the skin. So we'll be rising up the temperature on the skin. And this can produce some side effects like a burn. So we need to take care in these cases. It does not mean that it's not efficient or that the treatment will not be efficient. It just means that we need to take care with parameters and with energy. So something important that is included in the always explanations for laser is the TRT. So the concept TRT means the thermal relaxation time. And it is the time that the hair needs to cool down. In other words, it's the time that the hair needs to release at least the 50% of the energy, of the heat. So the pulse duration, which means the time that the laser is emitting the pulse, should always be shorter or very close to the TRT in order to really be effective on this process. And I'm going to explain this by using these graphs that it's easily seen. So the TRT, as we said, is the time that the hair starts cooling down. Let's put an example of the TRT 15. So in both cases, we are talking about the same time, 15 and 15. So what would happen if my pulse duration is really short? In this example on the left, we see that the pulse duration is 10 milliseconds. So it's quite shorter than the TRT. So in this case, all the energy delivered is so fast that there's the possibility of really increasing the temperature up to these 80 positive degrees and be really effective on the treatment. What would happen in the same case with the same TRT, but instead using a long pulse duration? So we will start emitting the pulse duration, but after 15 seconds, the hair will start cooling down, but the pulse duration stills. So the point is there will not be possibility of reaching so that high temperature because the hair is already cooling down. That's why always in laser treatments to be effective, you need to work with the pulse duration as short as possible. So that's why we can present one of the main features of our devices, that is the ultra short pulse technology, also mentioned as USP technology. So it just means what we already explained. If we have the option of emitting really short pulses, we have the capability of really focusing on heating up the hair in a short time to really increase high temperatures, while we are not producing any effect on the surrounding tissue. Otherwise, and other standard diodes from the market, they have no possibility of emitting this really short pulse. They emit long pulses. So there's no possibility of reaching so that high temperature, but also there's the inconvenience of heating up the surrounding tissue and also producing some side effects. So in this slide, we're going to present a clinical simulation that was done here in our Sinclair EBD offices, in which we were comparing clinically the effectiveness of primelase against other low-power diode lasers. So we are comparing primelase with 4,000 watts power against 400 watts power. So the big power of the device is what really can offer this short pulse duration, while some devices that are not so powerful can only offer long pulse duration. So on this video, you can see how the temperature starts increasing, but because we're offering short pulses, there's really the possibility of reaching high temperature. So 5 milliseconds, around almost 100 degrees inside the hair and 70 degrees in the roof, while on this case, almost 50 in both cases. Obviously, we will achieve effectiveness on this case, but we will not on this other case. So as a summary, it is important to understand that to getting these short pulls, what we really need is to have a powerful device.
Okay, so let's continue now with the market overview now that we understand how the device works a little bit. So first of all, we are going to see which is the market of this device, of the laser and the hair removal overall. So the global estimated market is going to grow up to 9.5 billion in 2027. However, if we take out only the hair removal piece, we see that it's only 7% of the market. It's driving the growth. The curve is increasing more than the global aesthetic market, but it's only 7%. Therefore, it's important that we understand that these devices that we have are platform. Primelase is a platform that the main indication is for hair removal. However, it can make another indication, such as skin rejuvenation or acne, and we will talk later a bit about that. So talking about the hair removal market, it's 7%, but we know we have an opportunity to have a bigger share of the market. If we see the market depending on the different parts of the world, we see that basically the market between North America and Europe is very, very important, followed by Asia Pacific, and the less important one, of the smaller one, is the Latin America market. So talking about the size of the price and how far we can go with this kind of device is talking about the big market, not talking only about aesthetic devices, but also about the total hair removal market size. When we see this, we pass from hair removal that is 672 millions to 4.9 billions. So this is a lot in electronic device, but a lot of the market is gained by the creams, ready-to-use wax strips or razor, which are like the most convenient for the users. However, we have a lot of opportunity to see that we not only are the 7% of the market, or we can not only go to aesthetic market, but we can go also for a bigger consumption market. We know that, for example, in IPL, there are already devices that are for home use, or so therefore, even though in diodes we are not there, we can think of this consumer with this need, that needs for the product, and how we could serve them. So in this big market, there are different trends, and the trends are good for us. The first trend is for women's. So the first trend is about the women's letting grow their hair, especially in armpits. So this is a trend that is still very, very small trend, and it's not sufficient to be concerned. So even though there have been some highlights about this trend, this is a trend that is very not important to us. And let's understand that this is only about armpits. Let's talk about legs, and let's talk about different sides of the body. Most women are wanting their hair to go away. So in women's, the trend is that even though you can see different highlights of not shaving or no razors, we are still in good progress. In terms of men, we say that we have like double positive. So we have some group of men that decide not to have beards. So these men could use our technology, but also the men that decide to grow a beard also want to have a trim and tight beard. So very polished, very nice looking, and that is something that we could also take advantage of. And it's not only about the face in men. There's another very important trend, which is for the body in men. So full body grooming in men is also a trend that is benefiting us and benefiting the category. So this is something that we could take advantage of. These are another trends that are happening in the market, increasing focus on developing products for women. So basically, we are seeing that the trend is going and the size of the women's use in the category is growing, increasing expenditure on personal care products, people becoming more aware of the personal care and wanting to groom more. Growing awareness for personal grooming as people go to the cities. They are also, the awareness is growing. Another factor is that all the advertising that is happening in this category, so the awareness is growing, and increasing adoption of EPL devices, as I said before. For example, there are homemade devices and there are also the standard devices. So all these trends are very positive for us. So understanding the trend now, let's talk about the competition to see which are the devices that compete with us. So the first thing that we need to state is that this is a highly competitive market. We see here some of the key competitors, not all of them, but some of the key competitors. As we understood in the technical part, in the clinical part of the presentation, we are a high-powered diode. However, we are competing with another technology, such as alexandrite, because, for example, a physician or in a clinic, they can use this technology for the same purpose. Therefore, they are all competitors. So understanding a little bit more on the devices, we see that there are a few brands, few companies that have very well-structured brands. For example, we have Candela that have a series of different devices. Even though they are alexandrites or jack lasers, they are very effective and they are competing with us. There's also Alma. Alma is a company that's very strong in Latin America as well, and they have a wide range of devices that you can use, different prices, different specifications, and that, of course, gives them a versatility and an advantage in the market. And there is also to mention Sinosure, but it's not only about these kind of companies that are very strong in the marketing and that have a wide range of devices. There are another companies that have fewer amount of devices, but are also competing with us. So we have Lumenis, is one of the best-selling devices last year that is competing with us, especially right now in Spain, but also in another market is with only these two devices, but it's really being competitive. We have Venus, we have Ice Collection, and this is only to mention one of the most important companies competing with us. So there is a lot of competition in this segment. Now we are going to talk about primelase and their specifications, and later on we are going to talk about elysion.
So as my colleague said, now we're going to focus on the device training itself. So first, let's going to focus on primelase, and later on, we're going to explain elysion Pro. So as I said, the main difference of both devices, even working the same, even using the same technology, is the total amount of power. So as we said, on this market, the main concept and for what we are mainly fighting for, it's the total power of the device, because more powerful device will offer better and more effective treatments. So let's see general specifications on primelase, then let's move to the step-by-step of the protocol. We'll talk about the new applications, and then we move to key messages, then audience and positioning, and finally the marketing assets. So as a general specifications, we need to remark that primelase is able to perform 5 different treatments. So important to understand that it is a mainly platform for hair removal, but a part of this, with the same device, but other wavelengths, other spot sizes, we can also perform for other treatments that they are pigmented lesions, vascular lesions, rejuvenation treatments, and also inverse acne treatments. So we're going to be able to treat 5 different lesions, conditions, because we have 4 wavelengths. So we will be talking about wavelengths in the next slides. The total power of the device is 4,800 watts, which is really, really high power of diode lasers if we compare with all the lasers that we have in the market today. We have 5 different spot sizes, as well as 2 treatment modes, static and dynamic. We have all the FDA, CE, and all the licenses and regulation prepared for this device be sold all around the world. This device also has the USP technology. We already talked about it in the theoretical part, which means this ultra short pulse technology to really obtain effective treatments. We will talk about the crystal freeze, which will be the cooling system for the device. It's a robust device that can work non-stop 24/7, always guaranteeing the efficacy and the safety for these treatments. And thanks to how it is created, that we will talk of it also, we can guarantee high durability of the device. So let's focus now on the wavelengths. So this graph is really, really important to understand, but not only for our device, but for understanding all lasers in world. So this is the absorption graph. So here we can find the absorption, and here we can find the wavelengths. So we will see how the absorption of the different chromophores happens depending on which wavelength we are working with. So if we start with the first one, the easiest one is the melanin. So the melanin is this curve, the black one, and we can see easily how the absorption decreases as the wavelength increases. So if we want to be treating melanin more effectively, we need shorter wavelength. I think this one is really easy to see. So then we have water. So water just acts opposite melanin. So it increases the absorption while the wavelength increases. So if we want to be more effective when we are acting over water chromophore, we need the wavelength as long as possible. And then finally, we have the blood hemoglobin or hemoxhemoglobin chromophore, which has different and specific curves. But generally, what we can see is that, again, when there's tops of melanin is where we can find or we can act more efficiently over blood. So knowing a little bit how the graph works, we have 4 different wavelengths. The first one is the 755 nanometer wavelength, which we'll be calling Alex. And it's called Alex because it has the same wavelength as the alexandrite lasers. The second one is the diode. The diode is the name that we gave to the wavelength of A10 nanometers. Then we have the blend one. That blend is just a mixing of 3 different wavelengths. In this case, it's the 1060 plus 940 plus A10 nanometers. And finally, we have the YAG one, that it's named like this because it has the same wavelength as the ND YAG lasers. It's not the same exactly because ND YAG, you will see that it's 164 and here it's 1060, but it's about the same. So if we focus now on the chromophores, the first wavelength, the Alex, because it's the shortest that we have, will be really, really effective on acting over melanin. The diode one is the second shortest, so will be also a lot of effective in the melanin treatments. Blend, it starts being a little bit longer, so it will be still working on melanin, but also on blood and also water. And the YAG one, it works even less in melanin, but more in blood, on water. So depending on which chromophore we want to act on, we will be choosing one or the other one. So this is another graph. We are talking about the same wavelengths, but regarding the scattering. So we said that was important to know if the wavelength was shorter or was longer because it affects on how deep it will penetrate. So as you can see now, Alex is the shortest one, so acts more superficially. Diode is the next one, is a little bit longer, so has the capability of penetrating a little bit more. Blend, because it's this triple wavelength, it has the possibility of penetrating in 3 different depths. And the YAG, that it's the longest one, it offers the possibility of going as deeper as the rest. So now we're gonna see the different wavelengths, but in a little bit more specification. So the Alex one, 755 nanometers, it only has one spot size. It's the 20 by 9, and it is basically used for really light phototypes, yeah? Because these light phototypes will not have big amount of melanin on the skin, so we can be quite aggressive with this wavelength. So the second one, it's diode. It's a little bit longer. It has a little bit less absorption by melanin. So that's why we can work with phototypes a little bit darker, from 1 to 4 in this case. And diode, because it's the most versatile wavelength, it contains a lot of spot sizes. So it has the 20 by 9, the smallest, 30 by 9, 20 by 15, more square, and the biggest one that it's 30 by 17. So the next one is blend, and blend because it's this triple wavelength and it has part of longer wavelengths. We can treat phototypes up to 6, so really dark people. So it's really effective wavelength, but also offering a lot of safety. And here we have 2 different spot sizes. We have the 20 by 9 and the 30 by 9. So a little bit smaller, a little bit wide. And the last one, it's called YAG. It's the 160 nanometer wavelength. And the spot that it's using, this wavelength, is the 4 by 3. So you will see that it's really, really small spot size, which is focused only for treating vascular lesions. And which are the phototypes allowed to be treated this kind of lesions from 1 to 4. So we have a specific wavelength that it's acting on blood with a really small spot size focused only on vascular lesions. So regarding the spot size, here you can just see a summary of what we have. Regarding Alex, we have the 20 by 9. Regarding diode, we have the 20 by 9, 30 by 9, 20 by 15, and 30 by 17, the largest one. In blend, we find the 20 by 9, 30 by 9, and in YAG, we find this 4 by 3 small spot size. So here you have a summary to learn which spot sizes are available depending on the wavelength. Something important and another feature of our primelase device is this contact cooling system. So it is a crystal freeze technology using a sapphire crystal, really strong and high quality sapphire, which has the possibility of cooling down the skin while we really rise up the temperature inside. Do you remember the first slide where we said there's the limitation of the epidermis temperature to be burning the tissue? So on this case, while we are applying the light, the laser, the crystal will be cooling down the skin. So the temperature is set at 5 positive degrees, but what is true is that while you keep performing treatments, it increases up to 25, but never going so that high that we can cause any side effect to our patients. Another differential factor is this high power diode laser. So remember that this is really important factor talking about the power because it will guarantee more or less efficacy on the treatments. So in our case, we have a laser created of 16 bars of 300 watts each one. That's how we can achieve this total high power of 4,800 watts. What else? We can guarantee as well, and we talk about this, the high durability of the device. And how we do achieve this? Because it's a laser without microchannels. Microchannels normally produce easy correction, obstruction, and generally producing failures to laser. Here on this case, because there's not these microchannels, The durability of the laser is much bigger, much longer life, and also regarding the water requirements are really low. In fact, our laser just needs anti-freezing cooling liquid. So no water, nothing else than just anti-freezing liquid. And another differential factor, it's the high speed at all fluences. And what does this mean? That even if we increase the fluence, or in a static or either the dynamic mode, we can always have the maximum speed. And this is again, thanks to the high power. So there are other lasers on the market that when they keep increasing fluence, so energy, they need to reduce the speed. So treatments are quite longer and it's not well way to sell them. So here you can always guarantee maximum speed, faster treatments, even if you high the fluence. Regarding medical certifications, we have FDA, CE, and all the other registration that it's needed for this device being sold all around the world. Now we're going to move to the step-by-step just to see a little bit clinically how we work and which are the steps for following the right and effective protocol. So we always need to start with the contraindications. We're not going to read all them because it's quite long, but you can find this document or also reading on this presentation, and you can exactly know which are the contraindications for these laser treatments. So we have absolute contraindications and also relative contraindications. Once we know that the patient needs good selected and can undergo this treatment and has no contraindications, we need to check which is their skin type. So remember that there's 6 different skin types from 1 to 6, and to exactly know where the patient needs to be placed, we need to perform the Fitzpatrick test. So the Fitzpatrick test is just a test to exactly know which is your phototype. So it asks different questions and finally it categorizes you in the 6 different phototypes. That will be needed because later on we need to exactly know which phototype you are to know which wavelength needs to be used, which spot size, and also which parameters. So next step is knowing which kind of hair we are treating. So first we need to consider what's the color of the hair. Is it blonde? Is it brown? Or either is it black? The thickness, is it fine or is it thick? Remember, thicker hair, more melanin will be easier to remove than fine hair, residual hair. And regarding the density, so if it's more amount of hair or there's less. So next step, it's choosing wavelength. Remember, we had these 4 wavelengths. The 755, 810, and blend are more considered for hair removal, and the YAG, so 1060, it's focused for vascular lesions. So depending on if you are lighter or darker, we will be just using one or another one. Remember, 755, phototypes from 1 to 3. 810, phototypes from 1 to 4. And with blend, we can treat all the scale of phototypes. Then spot size. Do you remember this slide? So it's the same. It is just to decide how fast we want to go with the treatment. So there's a relationship in between effectiveness and size of the spot. So always remember that larger spot will allow you to perform faster treatments, logically, but would be a little bit less effective because the energy is emitted in a larger area. Otherwise, if you go to a smaller spot size, you will need more time. It will take more time to perform the treatments, but the energy, it's more concentrated. So it will be a little bit more effective. So it just depends on the client, on the doctor, on the clinic, depending on the treatments they want to offer and they want to sell. Primelase, as I said as well on the features slide, has the option of 2 treatment modes. So we have the static mode and the dynamic mode. The static mode can work at 1, 2, 3 Hertz, and the dynamic at 5 or 10. The Hertz are just referring how fast I do go. So, the next step is seeing and checking the treatment tables. So we can always find 3 different treatment tables for each wavelength and each spot size. So once we know which is the applicator we are working with, we'll have the static mode, in which we select phototype, we select hair color, we select thickness, and it will be giving us the range of fluence and also the pulse duration. We have another table that it is also for a static mode, but special considerations for this thin, residual, difficult hair to remove. And then we have the treatment table for dynamic mode. So how does the static mode looks like? So here you have just an example. All this can be checked anyway to exactly know which is the procedure. Don't worry about this. We have the treatment table, we select phototype, we select hair color, and we select thickness. And as I said, it will give us which are the parameters to be used. So I go to the screen, I press play, I do select pulse duration, I do select how fast I'm gonna go, and I do select the energy, so fluency, joules by centimeter square. Once the parameters have been selected, I do some marking just to know where I am working. I do cover if there's some moles or some freckles to not treat them. Then it is just needed to apply a thin coat of ultrasound gel, creating uniform layer. And finally, I do start the treatment. So this is the example of how the static mode works at 3 Hz. So the fastest option possible. Okay, now let's just move to the dynamic mode. Again, we just move to the table. We need to select how big is the grid we're gonna draw in the patient, and it will give us all parameters. So we start again, we do play. Dynamic mode, and here we just write the milliseconds, so pulse duration, the joules by centimeter square, so fluence, and the accumulated energy, that is the other parameter needed for developing this dynamic mode. Finally, the device will give us a timing, and that will be the time that we will be delivering all the energy. So we mark the grid. In this case, this operator is using the 30 by 10. Again, we just want to mention as well that there's different options of grid. So depending on how large is the area to be treated, you can select one or the other one. Again, always ultrasound gel needs to be applied of 1-2 millimeters approximately. We create this uniform layer, and this video is really to demonstrate how they look different. So now we have a timing on the device that will be delivering the energy till it finishes. So the main difference between static and dynamic mode is that static, every shot delivers the maximum energy, and the dynamic is just delivering energy in a concreted area, giving many passes just up to the time is done. Okay. So regarding new applications, we're not going to lose much time on this. It's just so you know that, as we said, primelase is mainly for hair removal treatments. So the main indication for our laser is this hair removal procedure. But thanks to the different wavelengths and the different handpieces that we have, we can also offer other treatments, other applications. So the first one is pigmented lesions. Let's gonna think logically, which is the chromophore we are working on when treating pigmented lesions? Melanin, hemoglobin, or water? So will be melanin. Which are the most indicated wavelengths for treating melanin, Alex or diode? And just so you see how this treatment looks like really easily, we do just mark the pigmented lesions. We have this spatula, really useful for focusing the energy only on the treatment area. Again, it would be interesting for you to read the clinical protocols to exactly know the step-by-step in case that it's important for you. There's always one clinical study that responds to this treatment. So always we guarantee this effectiveness because there's a clinical study performed to see the effectiveness. So you can also read these clinical studies. Let's move to vascular lesions, second treatment. So which is the chromophore we are working on when treating vascular lesions? Blood. And we have a specific wavelength that acts perfectly well on blood chromophore and also has a really small spot size to offer high fluences. So perfect applicator for treating this condition. We can treat facial telangiectasias. We can also treat varicose and telangiectasias placed or located in legs. We can also treat these typical cherry hemangiomas and capillary malformations. Exactly. You can see really clear on here how this red cherry hemangioma turned black, so perfect endpoint. And finally, the facial erythrosis and red scars. So this is just example, short video of how this treatment is performed. Okay, and again, always clinical study that demonstrates the effectiveness of this treatment. So in this case, for vascular lesions, we have many. They were done in different moments. So they are always guaranteeing the effectiveness. Let's continue. Another treatment available with primelase is rejuvenation. So which will be our chromophore? On this case, we will be acting on water. So water is really well absorbed by our wavelength blend. And also, thanks to these three wavelengths, we have the capability of penetrating in 3 different depths. So we'll be treating dermis in 3 different layers. Really short video of how this treatment looks like. And again, another study you can read if you think it's interesting for you. Last treatment, acne. Acne, we want to explain really well that the acne treating is the inverse acne or the follicular acne. So this acne that it just appears, it's produced because the hair is somehow stuck into the skin. So again, which is the chromophore we are working on, we will be just destroying, killing this hair so it does not reproduce this folliculitis condition again. So we just need to focus on the same wavelength or parameters that we would be using if we're doing a typical and conventional hair removal process.
Okay, now understanding all what we have talked from a clinical point of view about primelase, let's talk about the key message that we are exploiting in marketing. And let's understand how has been the trajectory of this device. So first of all, this device now is 10 years old. It starts as primelase HR, as hair removal, it stands for hair removal. And we only have 2 spot size in diode, 10 by 9 and 20 by 9. In 2014, 1 spot more, and in 2016, we can see that it started reproducing in also 2017, more and more spot size. Right now, we have 8 different spot size. And in 2018, we passed from primelase HR to primelase excellence. And this is because we have the different indications talked before. So right now we have 5 different indications, which are hair removal, acne, rejuvenation, vascular lesion, and pigment lesions. And in 2022, we have also new applicators and accessories. A new handpiece, 20 by 15, the Cool Prime, that is a project that is no longer being available for countries, and the Prime B, the vascular one, the 4 by 3 applicator. So right now, which are the key messages that we are exploiting right now? This message, as you already saw in the clinical part, are the message that really differentiate the most the device. So the first is the power that the device have. 4,800 watts is a lot of power that the device have compared to the others in the market. It's a very, very high power, and that offers the device the high precision and the efficiency. So this is something that we really highlight in the benefits that we have. Also, the crystal freeze. There are different ways of cooling, and in the market we have very different from device from each one another forms of cooling. The importance of the crystal freeze is to maintain a constant temperature of 5 degrees during the entire treatment. So this enables the safety of the treatment for our patients. And the ultra short pulse, as told before, this is the primeless automatically select the shortest pulse for each condition and treatment selected. This is also another one of the benefits that we have. And you can see in the picture the 4 wavelength, 5 treatment, and 5 different spot size. All of this gives a primeless a lot of versatility in indication, versatility in wavelength, versatility in the spot size, and this translates also to the speed of the device to perform the different treatments. So these are the key benefits or the key messages that we are communicating as marketing. Now let's talk about the audience and the positioning of this device. So basically in the audience, this is a device that is pretty much focused in medical doctors, such as aesthetics or dermatologists, that they understand already the hair, the science in the hair removal. They want to offer a premium experience for the patient. They are focused on having devices that are efficient and without pain, such as primelase. So they care about their image and their reputation, and they are not willing to take any risk. So primelase is a very, very good option for them because they know they can invest in a device that is perform very, very well. It's very safety. The efficacy is very high, and that can give them a better ROI. So let's talk about the marketing assets that we have. We have a different set of marketing assets, such as brochure, flyer, roll-up, and posters. Some of them are for B2B, and some of them are for B2C, and some of them are for the whole platforms, or we are talking also, for example, for the Prime B or the applicator 20 by 15, as you can see right here, we are only spotting 1 applicator. So depending on the different needs that you may have, you will have different marketing assets. And very important, this marketing asset has been translated to different languages, so it's not only available in English but also in Spanish, in French, and in Italian, in case that you need any of them. With the sale of the marketing kit in the direct markets, with the sale of the device, it comes a marketing kit. The marketing kit, as you can see in the picture from below, is a box that contains a wardrobe, headband. It contains the table, so the people that is using the device can easily look what are the configuration that they need to make. It contains a sign for the clinic, saying they have primelase excellent, and very important, these contain these squares that you can see here. Those are silicone molds that have different lengths, and they are very, very useful because they use it with a white pencil, and the physician or the person that is doing the treatment can mark the area where the treatment is going to be done. So this is something also very helpful for the use of the treatment. Another things that we have are, well, of course, in the social media, we have our social media, and we have also campaigns on social media. So we have the always on and in and out marketing campaigns. And we have, and you can find in our internal tool, Showpad, different webinars and trainings about the primelase and how is the primelase performing. You can have trainings more focused on hair removal, other training focused in another indication, so you can find a very broad set of marketing assets.
So now we have already finished with primelase device training, and we're going to move to elysion training. So again, we're gonna go through how the device works, the clinical protocol step by step, the device key messages, also the audience, and the marketing assets. So as we said, they work, both devices, with similar, well, same technology and similar configuration, but there's quite differences that it makes primelase more powerful than elysion. That's why, yeah, we need to make and explain the main difference in between. So regarding elysion Pro, there's two different models, and these two models depends on how powerful they are. So we have elysion Pro with 2000 watts and elysion Pro 3500 watts. So the first one, elysion Pro 2000 watts, has at the same time 755 wavelength, it has 810 wavelength, and it has also blend wavelength. Remember that blend was the mixing of 810, 940, and 1060. But elysion Pro, it is only created with the 810 wavelength. So regarding the same graph and the absorption, it is about what we already explained. We're not going to repeat, just so you know that we are working with Alex, 755, diode 810, and blend. And elysion Pro has no jack, so 10, 60 nanometers wavelength. Regarding the scattering, it works exactly the same. As shorter is the wavelength, more superficial it will be acting, and deeper, longer wavelength. Regarding a spot size, it has only two spot sizes. So it is only the 10 by 10 and the 18 by 10. So the 10 by 10, it's used in all the different wavelengths, but the 18 by 10, it is only used in the 810 nanometers wavelength. It's a little bit confusing because it's quite different to primelase, but yeah, if you need more information again about this, you can consult all the documentation. So here you can find the 10 by 10 works in the three different wavelengths, and as I said, the 10 by 18, that it's a little bit longer, wider, larger, yeah, it works in the 810 nanometer. So again, depending on the clinic, depending on the client, the skin type of the patients for that country, they will be just using the configuration that better suits for that clinic or that doctor. So regarding the clinical protocol, we're not going to repeat all it again because it's exactly the same as what primelase does. So first of all, we need to assess the patient and ask them for the contraindications to make sure that they are good candidates for undergo this hair removal procedure. Then we need to check the Fitzpatrick test to exactly know which is the skin phototype and classify it from 1 to 6. Then we need to consider the hair type, so which color it is, how thick it is, and if there's more amount or less, so about the density. Then once we know which patient do we have and which hair color and hair characteristics, we decide which wavelength. After that, we decide which spot we're going to use, depending again on larger areas, smaller areas, and how fast we want the treatment to be done. Then we have as well 2 operation modes, so static and dynamic. We're going to review this because, the screen and the configuration in Elysion Pro is quite different, but again, they work the same. Static is just offering the maximum power in one single shot, while the dynamic is just delivering the amount of energy in a specific area. After that, we need to check the treatment tables to exactly know which are the correct parameters for that patient and that hair characteristics. And after that, we just need to start performing the treatment. So regarding the static mode, you will see that the Elysion Pro works quite different. So we have the same treatment tables. We select phototype, we select hair color, and we select thickness. We will obtain the maximum, minimum range of fluence, and then the pulse duration. So this is how the screen looks like. First, we need to select which is the phototype of the patient, and then we just select the fluence and the frequency. So we're gonna use the zone marking to know where we are working on. We are gonna cover all moles. We're gonna apply thin layer of ultrasound gel, and we're gonna perform the treatment. So as you see, one single shot, we are not going over the same area again. It's just one next to the other, overlapping 50%, etc. Always, we need to verify at the end the endpoint. We will talk about this. And the dynamic mode, again, we go to device screen. We first select on the treatment table skin phototype. We move to thin or fine hair, and we get all the parameters. So this is how the dynamic mode screen looks like. We are just applying all parameters on it, and it will work the same. The device will give us an amount of time. So in this case, for example, it would be, let's see, around 40 seconds. So we have 40 seconds for delivery the energy. Again, we do need to mark the grid. The grids for Elysion Pro are always 10 by 10. Once the area is marked, we apply again ultrasound gel, thin layer, 1-2 millimeter, spread it homogeneously, and then just delivering the energy, performing as much passes as it needs until the time is done. Okay. So something important that includes both devices is to make sure if the treatment has been effective or has not. So we need to guide ourselves by following and checking the endpoint or positive skin reaction. So it is the signs or the clinical signs that shows really the efficacy of the treatment. So once the treatment is done, we need to check the patient and see if there's any edema or peripheral erythema around the hair follicle. Also, it can be a positive endpoint if there's mild erythema or edema in the treated area, so generally. Also, it's a really good endpoint, this hot needle sensation that the patient will tell you, or even the smell of burnt hair. So we need that some of these actions, conditions happen to guarantee that the treatment has been effective. Here you have some examples, of these exact peripheral erythema just around the hair follicle. This really shows the effectiveness of the treatment. And really important as well to always explain the patient the post-treatment recommendations. So what they should or what they should not, to make sure there's no side effects and that the treatment goes as it was expected. So we always recommend to apply some shooting cream such aloe vera or some moisturizing cream that will be calming down the skin. It can also be applied some ice or cool pads if the patient feels quite discomfort after the treatment. And if there's moderate or mild pain, some anti-killers and anti-inflammatory drugs can be taken. It is really strange. Normally, nobody just shows this option after the treatment. Always we try to avoid any trauma or aggressive treatments, scratching our skin, exfoliant treatment, whatever. Also really important to avoid sun exposure for the next day and also before the treatment. So before and after the treatment, the area should not be exposure to sun. And anyway, there's always the option of applying 50+ sunblock for making sure that there's no any side effect on that area. Also avoiding hot baths, saunas, or any activity that would make us sweating. And also implementing high hygienic measures in the treated area for the next day. So in a summary, it's just having the treated area healthy, clean, disinfected, and hydrated.
Okay, so now we understand that the clinical point of view and clinical side of the lesion, then we're going to talk about the key message. So the key message or the key benefits that we highlight is that we have 2 different devices with 2 different powers and of course different prices. So this is something that we highlight. Of course, the 3,500 is the one that we recommend because it has more power and it will have better results. The ultra short pulse, the crystal freeze, and the different spot size that we have. So these are the main concepts that we talk, or the main benefits that we talk when we are talking about elysion. So what's the audience and how we can differentiate elysion and primelase, not talking only about the power. So what else do we have? So the audience of this device is more focused on aesthetic centers. Let's remember that primelase is focused more in the medical part. So this is focused in aesthetic centers and wants to offer a wide range of treatments and experience to their clients. So maybe independent center or maybe part of a chain, they want to be able to offer for best price. And in the last years, unfortunately, we have seen that there is a lot of price war between the different centers. So they want to be competitive. So they sometimes need a device that may be no such high power such as primelase, but still with efficacy. So this is the case in where the lesion takes the audience here. Regarding the marketing asset that we have for elysion, also we have different brochures both for B2B and for B2C, and also differentiated brochure for the different devices, as you can see here. So the different brochure for the 2,000 and the 3,500s. We have also roll-ups, and we have different videos for recommendations, for service, for treatments, and different trainings. Device training, hand pieces, central unit service. You can find here, for example, in our internal platform, you can find the quick guides, the clinical protocol, the informed consent. So all of this is available in case that you may need this for elysion. So thank you very much for attending to this training.
And we recommend you, in case you want to extend your knowledge, to visit our platform where you can find all these marketing and clinical documents, so you can go a little bit deeper in some topics and answer some questions that you may have. Thank you very much.